My name's Chris.
And I'm celebrate good times. Come on. Do, 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 do. Look, I got through the therapy from Expo 88 and now I'm celebrating.
Finally, and now she's out the other side. And that's Kristie. We are the Washing Up Podcast, and it's Celebration Week.
And I know Alina recognises that song, seeing as though that was her cover that featured it.
It was one of her biggest hits.
Yes, in 1988.
On the Gold Coast.
Yes, Expo 88.
We don't need to bring up anything that happened there.
No, like I said, I've been to therapy, I've gotten over it, and you know, I'm okay that I didn't go into the Queensland Pavilion, even though it was the best pavilion at Expo 88.
It's now a church.
Exactly. So if I really want to go there, I can see God, and what's better than God? Probably the Queensland Pavilion. I mean, but that's blasphemous, and now we're going to lose a lot of listeners.
I mean, of all of the random things I didn't expect to start with, Expo 88 is one of them. But I can link this to our Canadian brethren.
How?
Well, the Queensland Pavilion might have been amazing, but it's not McBarge.
Oh, McBarge for there.
Vancouver.
Expo.
Yes.
Yeah, Vancouver. What was it, Expo 92?
No, it was 86, 84. It was before. It was one before.
Oh, wow.
So the more important part is, again, McBarge, last I saw McBarge was somewhere up a river in BC. But again, I highly recommend, if you're going, what the hell is McBarge? And most of you do know, but if you're going, what the hell is McBarge? I do suggest you go and check out Bright Sun Films' Abandoned series and go and check out the McBarge. I would have bought it.
Look, I just don't think there's enough love for floating restaurants these days.
No.
Like, your aunt sang the jingle for Imperial Peking Afloat, which I really wanted to go to because of that jingle, because it sounded classy.
Terrible restaurant, wonderful jingle.
Exactly. She gave it class. She gave it panache.
Distinction.
She gave it some grace.
Not enough floating restaurants, and like a floating McDonald's even had an appearance of something a bit classier than a McDonald's. I mean, they went with faux teak furniture, so, you know.
I know, and like, there was so much option, fillet of fish doesn't get a good run, but on a McBarge, it has to. Like, come on, it has to be your primary burger on a McBarge.
I kind of wanted to see a KFC piracy attack.
Yar, it's me, the Colonel. I've gone rogue, yar.
We should probably talk about Celebration Week at some point.
No,
but I'm having far too much fun talking about...
Get him, my girls, and you're bark, 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 like little pirate chickens running onto the barge, like just ransacking the place.
Trying to sail to the safe haven of the Pizza Hut.
Freeing the nugs.
Free the nugs. I'm here for McBarge. I mean... Look, I could easily do a solid hour on McBarge, but we should probably get into Celebration
This is the Bake Off podcast, not the McBarge podcast.
This is what you're here for, though. You're here for our McBarge hot takes in 2021. And nobody else is giving you McBarge hot takes, much like we are. All right, so let's get into Celebration Week. Now, I'm going to be upfront, and I'm always upfront every time there is something along the lines of a Celebration Week. I'm not its biggest fan.
You don't like celebrating. We know this, Chris.
No, I hate celebrating.
You're like, fuck parties.
Celebration Week.
Is that Christmas?
Celebration Week. No, I never do that to Christmas. You know what my birthday is.
I
know. My reason for behind the Celebration Week thing is simple. I feel like you end up with baking in the episode that it's close, which is good and interesting, but I feel like, you know how in some weeks people pull away because they're good at something?
Yeah.
In these sorts of weeks, it becomes very much all over the place baking. So the people who are good at the first challenge are going to suck at the technical and vice versa. And then the third challenge comes in and a different group of people like it again. And while that might be good for the idea of parity, it annoys me because it means that somebody who bakes something really good could go home and then you end up arguing over, you know, what the weighting of the bakes was.
Look, I disagree. I'm here for Celebration Week. I like that tonight we got to, in Eclair form, we got to celebrate many things. From Canada Day, and that just got me singing some
Rock your body to Canada Day.
I'll rock my body to some Eclairs. To the Cherry Blossom Festival, aka obviously the Festival of Vincent.
Yes, completely the Festival of Vincent.
There's so much more than just celebrating like the
Year of the Tiger.
Year of the Tiger, yeah, that's going to be next year. I found out.
Well done. There you go.
The tiger.
So
you guys in Canada don't get that reference, do you?
No, they don't.
Tiger.
So, and only a few people in Australia do. Anyway, So let's start with the only place we can start in Celebration Week.
Yeah.
Anne Pornell.
Oh my God.
The hair. The makeup.
She was there to
dress.
celebrate. She was wearing victory rolls.
Yeah, exactly. It was unbelievable. Like the mixture of the hair, the makeup, the dress, just perfection this week.
And what I loved is the article that came out last week about her talking about being, the fat, dumpy Asian girl who's never, been the glam one, the hot one. And, in this, she is dressed to be the hot one, to be and she stuns. Oh my God. There's Bruno, Kyla and Alan, they're all tight, what they're wearing is sharp. But then you throw Anne in and it's like friggin' Vivienne Westwood has just wandered into the tent.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Absolutely, completely. She was unbelievable.
Kind of with a lot less tartan.
Yes, far less tartan.
But we don't know what's coming next week. It could be all Anne, all McTartan.
I don't know. We'll need to find out if BTS like people in tartan. We'll come back to that, Anne. Yes. So, the signature. Now, the signature is one of those bakes where, again, I'm going to be a bit of the sort of, oh, well, and then Kristie will come over the top of me and go, no, bullshit, you're wrong. But... Celebration eclairs.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like in this challenge...
I like eclairs. I like celebrating. Boom.
I feel
Two
like
of
in
my
this...
favourite things together. Bring it on.
I feel like in this challenge, you could have thrown the word celebration in front of anything.
Yeah.
So you could have had celebration brioche.
Yeah.
You could have had, a celebration... Well, I was going to say a celebration duckwa, but they did technically. Mm-hmm. You could have had you could have a celebration anything.
Because these days, right, there are traditional celebratory cakes. In past, we've seen Yule logs come out quite frequently. We've seen, what were those things where they had to have the rings of things?
Yes, I remember the kranzakake.
Kranzakake. Very specific celebration cakes. But these days, you look around, on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, what people are putting up, as their celebration holiday cakes or bakes and whatever, it's all different. Everything from cupcakes to friggin' meringues to bloody ice cream.
My other issue with celebration...
To towers of, licorice that they've hand-pulled. I don't know how licorice is made.
the mummy and daddy licorice love each other very much. No, my other issue with the celebration, the idea of the celebration eclair, is that clearly means that somewhere in an alternate universe, there's a commiseration eclair.
I'll take that too.
Or an upset eclair at the very least.
Look,
we've all had a commiseration eclair.
We've all had a bit of a down day, walked past a bakery and gone, oh, that eclair looks good, I'll take that. And that's,
But I like the idea of the decorating, the
eclairs.
The downturned eclair.
Yes.
It's like it's got a frowny face on it. What have you done? I've gone and put charcoal in the dough. Why? It's black.
Well, how Alina's had love on it? One of them could just say sorry.
Hate.
Yeah. Or as was Karen cooking later to this episode with spite. Yes. Love hate eclairs. Maybe just one that says hugs.
Now, Bruno, Alan did say, they're eclairs that are basically just sort of got some decoration on them, which gives me an excuse to eat them. Mm. So Alan was calling them out on this, but, who's also calling them out on the fact he's about to get to eat eclairs.
Yes.
So it's a win-win situation.
Do you feel like they shoehorned in some eclairs? Get it? Shoe being the pun there.
Now, anytime we get to watch people make shoe in a bake-off tent, pavilion, shed,
yes,
it's a fun time. I do, before we do that, I just have to mention something that I don't think anyone knew. Mm. Bruno's French.
What?
Yeah, I know.
That's not intimidating.
He mentioned it 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the first 5 minutes. And here I was thinking he was from,
Minnesota.
No, not quite Minnesota. Manitoba, maybe. So, making the shoe. Now, it's one of the rare occasions whenever I watch Bake Off that I get to gloat.
He is a good shoemaker.
It's the one thing I'm really good at.
He's the cobbler of bakers.
I'm the cobbler of bakers, you're right. It's the one thing I can do really well in baking, is I make really good shoe pastry.
You do.
Everything else...
Not often enough, but when you do, you deign to,
I'm going to make some profiteroles today.
Yay!
Yes, there's a level of joy that comes out if I go, I'm going to make profiteroles. I don't know how. It's obviously the baking gods have smiled upon me in one area. The rest of them, they're okay. I'm passable and things, but...
It's like me in art. Can I paint? No. Can I draw? Not really. Can I sculpt? Yeah, I'm pretty good at that.
Can you make polymer clay flowers?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, you can, completely. So we got to watch them all making the choux pastry, and to various levels of stability. And it was really interesting because while they were making the choux, you could sort of pick which ones were going to fall and which ones were going to sort of puff up.
That said, like, how bloody hot was it in that tent? Like that...
Yeah, over 30.
I was just waiting for the film crew to just pan out, and they're all walking around in towels, like a sauna.
But this was
just going past and just pouring an extra little bit of water to push up the steam in the tent, There'll be a few old Greek guys in the back sitting on the shelves talking philosophy.
One of the spare ovens from previous weeks is being used now as the hot box.
You just see some random Swedes go running out of the tent to try and roll into, to beat each other with some birch twigs.
Not for the first time. But I really, again, it was over 30 degrees in there. The challenges they gave them this week involved lots of meringue, lots of icing, lots of gluing things together, and a mousse. So...
Good week for the
heat
to hit.
Great week for the heat to hit. So let's start with Dougal. Now, Dougal was making Christmas eclairs. Now, what you may ask is a Christmas eclair, and I have the answer in 3 words: Irish cream filling. We're done. That was it.
Yep.
It was Irish. It was about the booze. And we often...
It was really Christmas in New York. What's the...
Fairy Tale in New York,
Fairy Tale in New York.
It was Christmas Eve in the drunk tank.
Yes. They brought out the eclairs.
Now, what I loved was Dougal had a bit of a voyage of trying to decorate them, and at one point decided to try to make modelling chocolate buttons, which is a call inside a melting tent. But as a result of all of that, he sort of didn't get all his decoration done. And then so it became the feature, became the booze in the bake. Now, we often talk about a boozy bake as a good bake.
Yep.
A boozy bake is a great bake.
Yep.
A boozy bake is a fantastic bake. In this case, I think you could have dialed it back a little bit.
You over boozed, but then a leader later on over buttered.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
It was an over the top tent.
They were overdone.
Overheating.
It was an overdone pavilion.
Overboozing.
And speaking of overdone,
Yeah.
bakers, I have an issue.
Oh, here he goes.
Now, there was some
Sorry,
matcha.
everyone. Just send your bill in the mail for the psychology.
There was some matcha, but that's not
Therapy?
the issue. That's not the issue. The
That's not the
matcha,
issue?
matcha wasn't my issue this week, my love.
It's really your issue this week.
You know what was?
What?
Ruby chocolate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You're gonna back me on this one?
Oh, yeah.
Because
to a
ruby
point.
chocolate is not very good.
It's fruity. It's fruity chocolate.
I've had this conversation. I've had this conversation on the podcast. I think we brought this up with Kyla, where I bagged out ruby chocolate, and she said, "I just need to try it."
Yep.
Again, and I'm like, I've done it a few times. Not for me, and I do like a white chocolate, by the way, which a lot of people hate. But there was a fair bit of people who just sort of looked and went, "We need to do a celebration eclair." Well, what's a celebration eclair like ruby chocolate?
Well, it's different, and it's not the normal, like getting a white chocolate and dyeing it, or a dark chocolate or a milk chocolate or whatever. Like, it does add a bit of colour and natural colour, so you can do that.
So what I'm thinking, we've seen it in a few other bakes. Savoury eclair.
Oh yeah, like maybe like a 4th of July eclair where it comes with like a hamburger and a hot dog in the middle.
I don't mind that idea, scarily enough. No. I'm thinking like...
Are you talking about like ketchup and mustard down the top?
Rare roast beef.
Ooh, okay.
Rare roast beef down the middle of the choux bun.
What about like a Cinco de Mayo and have like a Mexican eclair?
No, you're right. A Cinco de Mayo eclair.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be good.
What's a Russian holiday? Like, just have like a borscht eclair.
No. I'm here with the Cinco de Mayo. I'm really here. My mind is racing with the idea of what you could do for Cinco de Mayo. That would be so cool.
You could also do, there's that Vietnamese water festival.
Yes.
And you could do it like a banh mi. Like, just like, what's it called?
Who was it? Somebody did. I think it was on MasterChef.
Pork belly.
Somebody on MasterChef, I think, did a
Pate.
shoe banh mi.
Did they?
I think they did. You didn't watch the last series.
No, I didn't.
But somebody on last series of MasterChef, I think, did a choux banh mi.
Wow, okay.
So you could have done one at that would have been something a bit different. Mm-hmm. And I know at the moment, and please check out the social media, the bakers are all doing a bake-along right now. They're theming their bake-alongs too. It was Googly Eyes this week. Amanda picked that. Sorry. Bakeritis. Bakeries, sorry. But she did pick the theme this week, was Googly Eyes. But I want somebody, anybody, to bake choux, and I want savoury choux.
Savoury choux.
Can somebody come up with a savoury choux as the challenge?
That looks like a choux.
That could be fun. So, anyway, Amanda was doing ruby chocolate and strawberry filling. Mm-hmm. Now, the ruby chocolate, I could take or leave, but the strawberry filling made it look a lot... Again, it was about the Canada Day tribute. It was the one that made us start singing Let's Go to the Mall.
Yes, it did.
And again, they did look like they would rock your body until Canada Day, or at least the vicinity of Canada Day.
And I did love seeing the little agar droplets coming in, with the lychee flavour and the berry flavour from, Stephen and Amanda, respectively.
Yeah, that was really cool. I like the way they did that.
Yeah.
Now, of course, if anyone was going to make crackle-on, it was
hello,
going to be Amy. It was going to be Amy.
And I started going, do, It's
the shoe of the tiger.
The shoe of the tiger.
Now, dark chocolate and mandarin orange cream.
Rising up, shoe in the oven.
And she was talking about it because she's born in the year of the tiger.
Make it not go fly.
So yeah, her thing was because she's born in the year of the tiger. That's why she decided to go with the year of the tiger decoration.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't my year. It was the year of the monkey. Would it just be flinging poo? I don't know what else. It'd be banana flavoured, of course.
Probably. I'm pretty sure I'm year of the dog, which is just...
Yeah, you are, because you're the same year as my sister.
It would just mean, that it was humping everything.
It's a tinned meat experience. it's just bone marrow. A bone marrow shoe.
Stephen, as we mentioned, did ruby chocolate with the lychee pearls, and that was an ode to his mother. And he's like, I hope my mother would enjoy it, although, again, knowing my mother, she likes everything I bake, so she probably would.
Aww.
Then Steve was celebrating his daughter Jessie's 21st birthday.
Oh, and he's in the tent for it.
So,
the pavilion.
Candied orange and hazelnut spikes with mousseline. So, couple of things with this. First of all, he said, I'm making choux and mousseline for a Frenchman.
Yes, don't make Mussolini for a Frenchman, but make
different.
Mussolini.
Yeah, that goes badly.
It goes very badly.
1930s, bit of an example. What I was impressed though, we did these hazelnut spikes. Now, aficionados of the Bake Off family, will of course remember the most famous example of someone trying to do the hazelnut praline spikes.
Oh yes,
I refer, of course, to jousting knights in the Great British Bake Off. Were they jousting knights? Were they penises?
Maybe they were penis jousting.
We came up with that. They were penis jousting. So, and if you've never seen
don't
those...
look that up. That is not safe.
If you've never seen those up, don't look up docking, but look up the candied...
Jousting Knights by Andrew, I think it was.
Andrew did that one.
Yes.
And everyone started giggling, and Andrew couldn't quite see it originally. Now, Vincent went with cherry pastry with amaretto cherry filling. Amaretto cherry filling.
Yep.
I got there eventually.
You did. And I think it would have been a beautiful design if it could have been executed, but I don't think that was Vincent's fault. I think that's just weather. And
well, as you said, they puffed and then they flopped.
Deflated. Yes, they were just like, woohoo, we're here. Oh no, we're going to be eaten. Oh.
Flop. Up and down.
Yeah, just pop a Viagra in. That'll get them back up.
So then...
We're celebrating good times.
That is celebration, you're right. Then Elena. So she was making the Italian meringue and tempered chocolate. Very classic design.
Yeah.
She kept it very classic.
For her engagement party that she couldn't have.
Yeah, the engagement.
Damn you, COVID.
Yes, it was for the engagement that she couldn't have.
Robbing all the things.
The whole thing was an ode to missed celebrations in Elena's past.
Oh, which is why it had that little bit of bitterness in there.
Oh, yes.
Bruno's like, well, love isn't bitter. And I'm like, well, obviously Elena's experience with not being able to, party on with her peeps is a little bit bitter. How else is she going to invite Danny over and,
So speaking of...
Might have been her last chance to see Bert Newton.
Speaking of issues
inside
the pavilion when it came to heat, Karen.
Oh, Karen.
So Karen's graduation eclairs, which she decided to do very fine mortarboard chocolate work, and you could tell within 5 minutes that wasn't going to last. And it just sort of flopped and was a puddle.
Did you? Okay, here's something. It's getting very bawdy this week. I do apologise. No, I don't apologise.
No.
I'm a bawdy person. We haven't been bawdy in quite some time.
We've been very well behaved.
So there is this beautiful picture of me at my graduation ceremony after I finished studying nursing at the University of Sydney, and there I am looking quite resplendent. You know, we had this beautiful so it was black, but for nursing it's like a beautiful sky blue what's it called, trim.
Yep.
And my pearls and stuff, and I'm shaking the dean's hand, and he's staring right at my cleavage. It is just, I think the photographer just took it at the wrong moment, but it was really disturbing when I found it out, because I was all excited. I'm like, and here's my memory of the day. the dean of the university, no, it's not the dean. Who's the big dude?
Vice Chancellor.
The Vice Chancellor of the
Which
university.
never makes any sense that the Vice Chancellor is the one in charge, but anyway.
I know, just having a crack at my cleavage. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Just
Anyway.
randomly, I hope you didn't get that, Carmen. Like, why am I calling you Carmen? Sorry, Karen. Ugh, one of those days.
It is one of those days. So,
Yeah.
anyway, let's get into the judging.
Yes.
So, Amanda's, they said it looked stunning. The fruit on top really did look great.
Yeah.
And I think the smart move was to go with the fruit on top rather than the chocolate, because the chocolate was melting.
Like, I just think the texture of those agar balls would have been amazing.
They said that they were low, but they had a very good gloss to them, and that was important. And they said that the tartness with the fruit...
The sugar low.
They said the tartness the fruit gave was really nice and really good balance. Karen's, they said they were melted, but you could tell what they were. Then she had a bite, and then Kyla had a bite, and what she was doing was the white chocolate sesame ganache. And Kyla's words were, "It's an unusual flavour, and I don't quite know if I like it or not."
It would be interesting in that context, because sesame in itself goes a bit grainy and a bit nutty, which is lovely. But when you're pairing it with like a choux or something, the choux itself is also quite, not grainy and nutty, but it's got a...
And then the white chocolate.
Yeah, I just don't think it had the flavour profile that you needed to go through. It needed something sharp to...
So Stevens.
Yes.
Now, they did say that Stevens looked so good they would make you turn in a window if you happen to be walking past them.
And when they were talking about the melted bit of the chocolate, I'm like, you got to forgive that, because that is not his doing.
Yeah, because they brought up, they went, the chocolate's a bit drippy and melty, and I went, of course it is. It's 30 degrees.
How was it not?
It's 30. They said the flavour, however, was great.
Yeah.
Amy's, they said the colour was very well balanced.
Yeah.
The crackle one was really good. And they said there was a really strong burst of flavour that you got out of biting into them.
Yeah.
Dougal's, they couldn't quite see the Christmas story, and it was really funny because they were like, I can't see the Christmas story in there. And Dougal's like, I was going to pipe a little bit of white under each of the buttons. And they went, oh, now we get it. And I'm like, you mean to tell me a small white disc on that would have made you think Christmas?
Yeah, because like when you look at Santa's suit, he's got the furry trim.
I get where you're going with it.
So you put a little bit of white on it, and you're like, it's Santa Claus.
McClaus.
Yeah, he's the Scottish Santa. He comes along and deep fries all your presents, lobs them down the chimney, and goes, there you go, laddies and lassies.
And as we mentioned in a Bake
and
Off,
rides off in his sleigh, towed by the Loch Ness Monster.
And as we mentioned, the bake had too much booze in it, which is a first for Bake Off. Well done.
I know.
Elena's, they said, looked really great and had a good punch of flavour. Vincent, they said they were a little flat, but the visual was still really nice. The filling was all the way through, and that was a positive. They said you could have been a bit more generous with the cherry. I do like that most of the complaints this week this was good. More, please.
Yes.
And Stephen, they said he ran out of time for the decorations, and that was quite clear. The filling was absolutely lovely, though. And they absolutely loved the flavour.
Yeah, and again, like when they said they could taste the lychee, I mean, that is a brilliant skill to have, to be able to bring the lychee flavour through.
Completely. Interestingly.
So delicate.
Yeah. So, the technical.
Yes.
So, Halloween.
It was a classy Halloween. It's like when Michael Scott goes, no, we don't want this Christmas, we want a classy Christmas.
Classy Christmas.
And it goes all silver and, gets the bassist in, because you could either have a trio for 1 hour or a bassist for all day.
Which would you pick? I'd pick the bassist.
Yeah.
All right. So it was a spider web mirror glaze, sponge cake, and mousse.
Yeah.
So nothing that was affected by heat.
No, it's perfectly great stuff to cook in a effing hot day.
Not a single thing that would go wrong.
Yeah.
Now, the when they cut it open, the cross-section looked amazing on the one that Kyla and Bruno had.
Yeah.
So, peanut and chocolate base, a pumpkin sponge, and then a chocolate mousse in the middle. Now...
And that's what I liked about this, because it was a sophisticated take, and the flavours really brought through the theme of the time of year. Because traditionally, Halloween is, in America itself, is pumpkin,
yes.
What's it called? Harvest. It
season.
is, putting spices in your latte. It is all that kind of business. It is the peanut butter.
And speaking of putting spices in your latte, you had to put your own spices in your pumpkin spice cake. Ooh. There were no measurements. Some people got this right and got it absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
Other people miscued completely and got the spices way out of whack.
Yeah, see, I'd have just kept, I'd have a test batter.
Yeah.
And kind of work out what I was doing. But, good on them for having a crack.
Now,
I mean, they were complaining about how many steps there were. I'm like, imagine if that was pared back, you'd be rooted.
Now, there was no baking time on the recipe at all.
Yeah.
Like for the cakes, so they had to work it out themselves. That was to dry out the pumpkin, so they had to work out how long to dry out the pumpkin for. I loved Steve's comment where he said, "We are multitasking today." And by multitasking, I mean we don't know what we're doing.
Look, it's a new...
it's appropriate.
It's a new definition for the word.
Steve was on fire, because then later on Alan came over to him and he's like, oh, we're making a mousse. What's the plural of mousse? And Steve just looks at him and goes, fear. Now, I must admit...
He really took over Amanda's. Like, Amanda didn't have much bakeries going on today. But
Steve, however...
Steve had a bit of insight, just cutting through to what we and the viewers, needed to hear what they're experiencing in the pavilion.
Completely. So, every time I watch them do anything with mousse, I flash back.
Yeah.
And like they were pouring the mousse on at one point later on when they're pouring the mousse into the moulds. And I just kept on thinking Pierre.
Oh, just that first week.
The first baker in Bake Off history to be done in by the heat inside the pavilion.
Oh.
Poor Pierre, who puts together his mousse cake, and when he pulls the wrapping off, it just oozes everywhere because, as he said, the mousse, it melted. And I'm like, so sorry for poor Pierre. Who everyone I know who has seen him cook just went, he was probably one of the most skilled bakers in that first season.
So now I really feel like, particularly with all like the climate change and stuff going on, why is the Canadian Film Centre not taking care of its film people and putting the air conditioning in there, and like silent air conditioning, film-friendly air conditioning, so that the bakers don't have to die and we don't have to like feel bad for them as their bakes melt.
Get onto that.
Yeah,
CBC, we're looking at you. Proper television.
Which minister is in charge of that, Trudeau?
We'll find out. Got to find out which minister is in charge of baking in pavilions.
I know, because it's so important. I mean, Australia needs to do the same thing too. New season coming out.
Baking in sheds, exactly.
Yeah.
So they were counting out the gelatin.
Ooh.
And we got four sheets of gelatin. Which filled me with dread.
Why?
Because it meant there was going to be gelatin inside the bake. And we know what happens when gelatin goes inside a bake in the bake-off pavilion.
What?
It oversets.
But not on this day.
It did a couple of times.
Okay.
It happened a couple of times. They're like, that mousse is springing back.
Well, you got to have something that's solid in that cake. Because
nothing else was.
No, exactly. And like, I'm here for the Count's references. I think we need more Sesame Street references.
And I mean, what I loved was...
Particularly the little worm.
I think it was...
Prairie Dawn.
Yes, Prairie Dawn. Welcome to our little bake.
I'm just now imagining Anne coming out to do a Prairie Dawn.
Oh, that could be... Anne, get on it.
And then Alan comes in doing the worm, like...
Somebody get them doing the Prairie Dawn in Prairie... I could... Yeah, please. No, I want Alan as Guy Smiley.
Oh my God, yes!
Alan would be an amazing Guy Smiley.
Yeah. Kyla... Oh, she'd be the lady who works in Maria.
Maria?
Lovely Maria. And Bruno... Just for the fun of it, I put him in. Like, he's so friendly. He'd be like Oscar the Happy. Like, he'd be the Canadian Oscar.
He's Ernie.
He's Ernie. Yes.
Bright, upbeat.
Yes.
Popular.
Here, beaky.
Yeah.
And
Here, kiki.
And it just flops into the tent.
Just drops in front of him.
Yeah.
So, poor Stephen, I think it was Stephen who was the one doing the count voice.
He was, yeah.
But then they cut back to Stephen later on, and while he can do a count voice, what he can't do is say, twirl.
Oh my god, it's just a tweel.
Twirl.
It's like a wheel, but with a T in front.
So, we've had practice.
Yes. We've seen people leave MasterChef on a tweel.
And then Dougal and Anne.
The tweel of doom.
Dougal and Anne trying to read the instructions on the cake. And Anne's looking at the twirl they had to make. And first of all, Elena's she goes, oh, it looks haunted. No, it looked burnt, Elena. Is what you're looking for, burnt. But then they go back to Dougal and she goes, so with that it goes where on the cake? And Dougal goes, oh, somewhere on the top, somewhere apparently. I don't know, we just throw it on somewhere where there's a gap.
Yeah. It's being decorated.
Now, the one thing they did give them, which was quite clever, is ice chests.
Ooh, I would have just sat in. I mean, you can't. It's dry ice. It's bad for you.
But,
your skin.
Yeah, the dry ice they gave them was a really good idea because it kept everything nice and chill. Yeah,
it did. I think that was a brilliant call. And I think that after, our off scenes, you probably had this large freezer chest full of dry ice that the bakers just went and sat in. Because I know I would be.
And then we got the mirror glaze. Now, the mirror glaze is usually interesting enough, but this was a patterned mirror glaze.
Oh, yes.
And what I loved was they started pouring it. I'm like, oh, we're going to get runny or gloopy, or what are we going to get with the mirror glaze? And I was worried about the mirror glaze. And they poured, and I went, oh, that looks okay. Then they had to do the swipe.
Ooh, yeah.
And, Vincent's like, here we go. And he does it, and it works perfectly. And
you
then
don't listen to Swiper at this point, because Swiper, there's one swiping.
No, exactly. Again, it should be like a good quality Tinder match.
Yep.
One swipe. So
we'd know all about that.
So what became really important at this point in time was you could only do the swipe once. If you went back over it or did multiple swipes, you were screwed. And if you just tried to pour it on top and then make it work, you were screwed. Everyone goes, there's more than one way to make a cake. Well, there's only one way. There's only one way to ice a cake, apparently.
How?
With this one. And it was called a palette knife and the one bit of icing and just one swipe. So you had to actually do it the one way. Yeah. So the judging. Stephen, too much glaze. There was no pattern. The texture of the mousse was gummy.
Aww.
Beyond that, it was great.
Oh, yeah. Beyond that, perfect.
Except for those key elements. Excellent. Yep. Amanda. She swiped more than once. They said it was more like a smear.
Schmear.
And then they said the sponge cake was wet because she obviously hadn't dried the pumpkin out enough. Remember, you had to dry the pumpkin at the start?
Oh, yes.
And they said the spices, however, were quite good. Amy's had a nice twirl. The web that was on top was quite good, and the chocolate mousse was holding quite nicely too.
No squirrel, just mousse.
Karen, some design on top, good mousse, but it was very dense inside.
Yeah.
Dougal had too many swipes and a good crunch flavour though on the peanut at the bottom. Elena, the pattern was good. The twirl was very overcooked. The spices were all out of balance. It was way too spicy. And there was a lack of aeration in her mousse. It was a very heavy mousse.
Oh, bugger. No, it was obviously not... who's our friend, the caribou?
Grace.
Grace the caribou. Not graceful like Grace the caribou.
It wasn't graceful like Grace the caribou.
It was heavy mousse.
Heavy metal mousse.
Heavy metal mousse.
And then you've got Vincent, who the feedback was literally great.
I presume that's just a friend of Jodie's.
Completely.
Yeah.
Great design, great flavour. That was it. That was all they said. Steve, the pattern was there.
Yep.
Good glaze. The cake was again wet. It was dense, and the mousse was resisting. Nothing worse than resisting mousse.
I just imagine like a Canadian Mountie. Come along, Mousse.
The Royal Mounted Mousse Division.
Yes. Come along. Don't resist.
Actually, they probably do have a Mounted Mousse Division.
Sorry. Oh, this is like people making fun of Australians riding around in kangaroos.
Good. It's about time we get them back.
Get them back. you know,
The mounted, what I mean,
with their sniffer beavers.
the idea of the mounted Mousse division and the mounted Mousse, members of the mounted Mousse division being too dense.
They're not good enough to make the normal mounted division.
They can't be a normal mountie, they must be in the mounted Mousse division.
Yes.
So let's get on. So the judging order: Stephen was 8, Amanda was 7, Alana was 6, Steve was 5th, Karen was 4th, Dougal was 3rd, Amy was 2nd, but Vincent was a runaway 1st.
And there was just like this pleasant little, look of shock on his face. And his cake did look wonderful. You know, I was very happy with that, and I'm like, ooh, setting it up for the showstopper.
And the showstopper, as you put it, was a meringue wedding centerpiece. Now, they talked about the idea of really out there sort of wedding cakes. Now, I have on the story on the Washing Up Instagram account.
Another excuse for us to talk about our wedding cake.
I've reshared our wedding cake because why not?
Yeah, when I was growing up as a little girl, I really wanted, the fancy plastic columns.
Yes.
Like dividing the cakes. I thought that was the height of romance and fashion.
But instead,
yeah,
we got you the Bake Off shed from Australian Bake Off.
Far more classy.
Far classier and made by one of the finalists.
Yes.
So there you go.
Thank you, Monica at Moorish Cakes.
Thank you again, Monica at Moorish Cakes.
Who's doing so much these years.
Please check her out.
Yeah, check out her Insta. She's amazing.
Yep.
She's
So
delightful.
Monica at Moorish Cakes, amazing work.
Yeah.
This I feel was a challenge that they started with Anne wanting to project marriage to BTS.
And I'm here for it. I'm here for a stable.
We've seen Anne's, if you follow Anne on Instagram or Twitter, it's mostly BTS with a little bit of cake and sometimes some comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. If you've heard our episode of the podcast with Alan and Anne, BTS come up in that too.
Absolutely.
I'm hopeful that next time we get to talk to Anne, there'll be more BTS talk.
My genuine wish in this world is that Anne gets a BTS harem. Like, it's just her in a palace with BTS. And, like, they can go out and perform. Like, it's not like the old-fashioned harems where they're, like, locked away from public view. It's just that, in their downtime, when they're not making music and doing shoots. I mean, they might do it while she's there.
Yeah.
But,
I'm sure they'll all write her a song.
Exactly. Like, a song each. Like, dedicated to Anne.
Whole album.
Exactly.
7-track album.
But there is one dark side. There is it's like the Robin daggers to the Robin sparkles. Okay. So we got Anne going, doing a little and I'm like, is this like the lead tasso of Anne? Is this Pan Arnell?
It could be Pan Arnell, you're right.
'Cause if you haven't seen Ted Lasso,
What are you doing?
goes dark, he goes lead tasso. So he's Pan Arnell.
Pan Arnell, the dark side of Anne Pornell. I love that.
Who's still cute and funny. But
cute and funny, but will eat your soul.
Yes.
So the conditions are not good for meringue. Let's just start with that. Amy, by the way, talks about the fact that she doesn't like meringue. Now, this challenge paired in beautifully with the Great Canadian Baking Show social media account, who put up a video this week where they asked all the bakers what was the most overrated, their hottest take, most controversial take about baking. And most of them came up with the same one, which is that macarons are overrated.
Yeah, I think they're a little overrated because they're a little overdone now.
Yeah.
Everywhere there's a macaron.
Yeah, and so...
if you're in France, there's like one in charge.
There's one in charge, exactly. But
and that poor macaron got stalked by
the Australian Prime Minister who was trying to get him to shake his
We
hand.
are so sorry, France.
We apologise to everyone. So Stephen went floral. He went with pomegranate and sumac. Rose and pistachio flavour, and then he also had the macarons as well, because you'd have to have them. It's a lot.
I was so intrigued by that flavour profile, and in my head I'm going, oh, I can see that working, but can I taste that working? Yeah.
Then Alana, again, she was partly celebrating her wedding to be, which didn't happen. Again, this just feels like it was a long way for her to work through some stuff.
I'm just surprised there wasn't an ode to Danny as her bridesmaid.
I thought there could have been a couple of different... you know what she should have done?
What?
She should have done an ode to her...
Scott and Charlene.
Yes, an ode to Scott and Charlene on Neighbours in 1989, I want to say they got married.
Like some overalls
Number 87.
and a mechanics thing, for Charlene.
And Angry Anderson singing Suddenly.
Nice little mullet for Scott.
None of you have seen this, by the way.
No.
Look it up online. Look up Scott and Charlene's Wedding Neighbours. Mm-hmm. You won't regret it. You will not regret it.
Yeah. Highlight of Australian TV.
Australian TV never got any better.
Yeah, that was it. Says
a lot. So Elena went with passion fruit macarons with coconut and a lemon profile. Interestingly enough, she was talking about making her dream sort of cake there. Then later on, she revealed to us she's allergic to coconut.
So she's going to go on obviously a tropical wedding. It's a tropical wedding, so probably Bora Bora, I'm guessing. But she's going to have to ask them to just have faux coconut. Or just
coconut.
Just keep the coconuts away, the real ones. That would be a good coconut. What could you... Can't, dry out banana and grate it. What else is
Pawpaw.
Pawpaw.
There you go.
Porknut.
Pork.
No, that sounds wrong.
Vincent. Vincent
Vincent made they make in Germany.
Vincent made a cashew dakwa.
Oh, I loved that. And he's little ode to the Philippines. Nice work.
And the salt chocolate macarons and things like that he was doing as well. Vincent's decoration was staggeringly good.
And it was simple but well executed. And when I say simple, it looks simple and clean when you know a lot of bloody effort went into it.
Can I also just give us credit for a minute? Because this is the longest we've gone in an episode where dakwa was made. And we haven't called it duckwas.
Look at us being all fancy.
We normally do by this point. So, now, Steve found something a bit unusual. He was struggling to sieve.
Wow.
The humidity meant that everything was clumping in the sieve.
It's a really interesting concept when you can't even sieve because it's so humid. It's almost Swedish in the background with the saunas. It's haven't you moved on to the birch twigs yet? We're at the showstopper.
Yeah,
You've got to be at the birch twigs.
Is someone outside being thrashed with a birch twig?
Yeah, come on. Get with it.
Then you had Amanda. So Amanda made blueberry marshmallows. Then she did the matcha and blueberry kisses. Matcha, thanks for that, really. I'm gonna move on. And she had macarons as well.
Yeah.
And then
wow.
And then we got more about macarons, but what we got was probably my favourite factoid of the episode about Karen and her announcement that she only started making macarons out of spite.
Yes, I just heard that they were difficult, so I was just going to do them. I love this because most people are I'm baking with love, this comes from my heart. And Karen's nah, I'm baking with spite.
I have tried macarons a grand total of 3 times. No.
Maybe you need to channel some spite.
I could. I might
just get angry.
Or I just talk to the boy genius that is Antonio and ask him how he does it.
Yeah.
Either or. Dougal, however, speaking of heroes, Dougal became the hero that the nation needed. And why was Dougal the hero the nation needed?
I don't like macarons.
I don't like macarons. His argument was they were too sweet. I just think they were overrated. For the cost per size, I don't think you get enough bang for your buck.
Yeah, but they're not supposed to be eaten in bulk. It's not like your Scotch fingers, even though I don't eat those in bulk. But you know what I mean? It's not like your Tim Tams, which once you open a packet, they're gone in a day in our household.
Oh, yeah, really fast. Don't mind me, I'm yawning. It's been a long day.
I don't do that. No,
now we're all yawning. Everyone now at home.
Podcast,
hang on. Now at home, on the count of 3, yawn. 1, 2, 3. You're welcome. So, the funny part is, someone will have done it.
Yes.
I've planted the idea. Someone will have yawned. If you yawned, let us know. So, Amy was then making a pavlova. Elena was making a pavlova, a couple of pavlovas, sneakily using the Australian heritage there.
Yep.
Amy was making a pavlova. Strawberry elderflower was the flavour she was going with.
What a
you would have loved
combination,
that.
Yeah.
Then she made blackberry macarons and lemon and thyme marshmallows.
Wow, that is a beautiful... I just love it because it's so springy. That to me is all wedding flavours right there. And the other thing Amy did too, if we don't forget, is that she's making it as an ode to her sister.
Yes.
Whose boyfriend had been sending her lots of pictures of engagement rings, and she's hoping, and we need to find this out, she hasn't spoilt the surprise.
Yeah, so we need to know, and I know you'll probably put it out on social anyway, but Amy, are they engaged? Was the boyfriend sending you engagement rings? And was there something, was he maybe, not saying?
I don't think he'd be hitting on her. Like going, I'm dating your sister, but I actually want to marry you. Like, that's just weird.
I mean, that could have just been a really funny outcome when she's like talking about on the show going, so, like, I'm sure he's sending engagement ring photos. He's going to get engaged to my sister. And he's like, no, they were for you. Not awkward at all.
Maybe he's doing it for all the family. Like
everyone. The mum, the dad, everyone.
The dog's getting an engagement collar.
2 colours. I mean, the engagement collar.
The budgie is getting an engagement bell. for the what are they called? Parakeets there. Yeah.
Seed bell. Engagement seed bell. I'm totally here for it.
Grandma's getting an engagement
hot water bottle.
Yeah.
So, Karen, mini meringue mushrooms, the dark chocolate cranberry macarons, and hojicha dakwa, which is the tea. So
yeah.
Interesting flavour combination there. She also talked about the fact that she loved doing origami. And cool, wonderful. Don't walk to that. As they did say in the judging, though, you do need to be able to
see the
bake. And I loved how Kyla talked about you need to be able to see it, and then subtly went a bit deeper when she went, "Oh, I didn't even know this was here," and pulled the big bake out from the bottom.
It's like it was just that the tree was a little bit too big.
It was broad
for the bakes. Yeah, it was broad.
So, Steve decided to channel our friend Robert.
Yes.
Add bacon.
Add bacon. And if you're going to throw, if you're panicking, throw bacon at it.
Throw bacon at it. Because as Steve said, life's better with bacon.
It is. And I love how, he's making this for his friends who are getting married and they love the outdoors. And just the concept, of a fire and the marshmallows, that's cool. Like, I like that. It was different. It's unique. Exactly. It was different. It was nice.
Exactly, because bacon makes everything better. That's what Steve said.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Bruno couldn't taste the bacon.
No, he couldn't taste the bacon. I loved where he goes, "What did you do with the bacon fat?" He's like, "I know what I should have done with the bacon fat."
He's probably like, those bloody Swedes took it.
Yeah, they ran off. They're thrashing each other with the birch and drinking the bacon fat. So Amanda at this point dropped part of her bake, but caught it again.
And then she's gone, "It's okay, I made a spare," and I'm like...
No, that was where Amy dropped hers completely on the floor.
Oh, that's right. Amy, that's right. Amanda dropped hers too.
Amanda dropped hers and broke it.
That's right. That made that made me cry a little.
Yeah. And then Amy's cookie started falling off the side of hers with all the heat.
Oh.
Because, again, the idea if you're trying to hold it together with buttercream, good luck.
Yeah.
So let's get to the judging, shall we? So, Amanda. Now, Amanda brought hers up, and Kyla's like, when you go to one of those weddings and the bride's so beautiful you want to cry?
Yes.
She's like, I just want to cry.
Aww.
She goes, this is spectacular.
It was absolutely beautiful. Even with that little bit of cracking, it didn't matter because everything else was gorgeous.
Bruno wanted it in a shop window in Paris. As Kyla goes, a bit of cracking, and she goes, I dropped it. And she goes, you saved it. The flavour of everything was delightful as well, so that was brilliant. Elena, they said the macaron shell was good, but the buttercream was too buttery. Now,
Bruno
Elena,
seemed to be like,
How the hell do you make something too buttery for Bruno Felddyson?
Wow.
That's amazing. You need to write books on this.
Yep.
How do you make it too buttery for Bruno? It's impossible. I never thought we could see it.
No.
The pavlova had cracked, and the curd was also a little bit too sweet inside the bakes. Dougal, they said it was very pretty, and it was. That festive theme looked stunning.
Yeah.
But as Kyla said, it was very easy to miss the bakes because the theme was so overboard.
Yes, it was the celebration at around, 4 hours into the party when the booze had come out.
It looked a little bit to me like, when you see people that have done the Christmas dioramas?
Oh, yeah.
He made a Christmas diorama.
Love it. I'm here for it, Dougal.
So, it lacked the crunch in the dakwa a little bit. The meringue was nice, but wasn't really toasted. It was a bit too soft.
Yeah.
Then you have Stephen.
Yes.
Now, they said that Stephen's was unfortunately really busy, and it was bright colours all over the place. And that meant that you missed a bit. The orange blossom macaron was confusing, and they said needed a little bit more chocolate. However, in the kisses, the most important part...
The sumac.
The sumac worked.
Yep.
And Kyla's like, I wasn't expecting to have sumac, but the balance was good. Then we have Steve. They said very bold display with the sort of logs and things like that. Very clever presentation. And as they said, the graham cracker that he had inside the macarons sort of distracted a little bit. And Bruno thought everything was delicious, but he couldn't really taste bacon.
Yeah. Get that grease back from the Swedes.
Simple, exactly. Chase
Damn
the Swedes down. I mean, good luck catching them because they're covered in bacon fat.
I know, rolling down the grassy hill.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing worse than a bacon-fatted Swede.
I know.
You try wrangling a bacon-fatted Swede.
Yes.
Every NHL training camp before they start the season,
It's
one of the Swedish players gets bacon-fatted up, and you've got to catch him.
on the ice.
Only then can your training session start.
Otherwise, it's bad luck for the season.
It's bad luck, much like in Sparta.
So I'm presuming the Toronto Maple Leafs have just not been catching them.
It's been 1967 was the last year the Maple Leafs caught the greased up Swede. And they have not caught a bacon-fatted Swede since. And they've got one. William Nylander could be bacon-fatted tomorrow.
Yes.
You could fix this, Toronto. Anyway, moving on. Now,
Please bring that up in your hockey podcast.
I completely will. The Extra Shift, check us out. So, Vincent, clean, delicate. Everything was well structured.
Yeah.
The flavour balance was superb. The floral came through beautifully. He's done some amazing... He's really come into his own. Like, that mosaic at the end of last week was great.
Yeah.
And this week, he nailed it. Amy, the colour was really good on the blueberry macarons, but the filling was thick and sweet.
Yeah.
There was a good squeak on the pav, and all the other flavours were really well balanced.
It's a little topsy-turvy.
Yes, but they said that
Butterflies
worked.
in your pad.
As they said, it worked with the butterfly theme. And Karen.
Yeah.
Now, the origami was pretty, but you couldn't see any food.
No.
The flavour in the mint was referred to as a strong palate cleanser.
Well, you don't have to brush your teeth after it. It's just helpful.
They said the macaron was nice, and they said that the jam needed to be a little bit more tart. So, Star Baker I thought was pretty
Clear.
I thought Vincent was going to be the Star Baker, and he was.
Yeah.
Going home was hard, but probably the right call, unfortunately, for poor Karen.
Yeah, like, I don't think there was a clear standout for who should have gone home. There was a couple of people having a bit of struggle.
And that's why I said, with Celebration Week, it's a lot harder to do the judging because there's a lot more middling, not because people are bad, but just because you might do really well at one challenge, then not so well at the other. And so everyone evens out.
Yeah, like next week in Bread Week, I'm expecting there to be very clear distinctions about who's got the technique for bread and who doesn't.
I'm just expecting that Stephen will work out why he was putting a probe into the bake. I've never seen Anne more, what the hell are you doing, than that promo.
I just hope he's like singing Intergalactic from Smosh in his head.
Intergalactic, yes, that would be cool. So that's going to do us for this week.
Yeah.
It was a good week. It's a nice solid week.
Absolutely. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to post Anne's what's it called, interview on our Facebook page, maybe the Twitter, I don't know.
Yep. I've already shared our wedding cake again, because why not?
Yeah. And there's some good stuff going on. Check out what the bakers are up to with their week by week, challenge.
With the bake-along. See if they take my challenge of savoury choux pastry.
Oh, look, that's all right. But, do a cob loaf. It's Bread Week next week.
I want savoury choux pastry.
All right, savoury choux pastry.
Anyway.
In the shape of a shoe.
Exactly. Until next week, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all later.
What is I, Pan Arnell, come to suck your soul.